Shaped like a teardrop, Sri Lanka lies just off the southern tip of India. Slightly larger than the state of Virginia, it has a population of 21 million, 67% of whom live in the rural areas. The population is ethnically and culturally diverse. The Sinhalese-speaking majority are mainly Buddhist, and the 12% Tamils are either Muslim or Hindu. There's also a large Christian population. Sri Lanka is a beautiful island with calm beaches, surf spots, wetlands, ecologically varied forests, imposing mountains, rivers and waterfalls, and an abundance of wildlife. On any trip to the southeast, you may see monkeys, elephants, or a number of migratory and endemic bird species. On December the 26th, 2004, the most powerful earthquake in 40 years erupted under the Indian Ocean, causing giant waves to crash ashore, and a long stretch of Sri Lanka's coast was inundated by the wave, which swept up to 5 kilometers inland, leaving 43,000 dead and a staggering 2.5 million people displaced. 2 months after the disaster, the International Baccalaureate had a group of volunteer teachers on the ground conducting a workshop on trauma relief in a play-based environment. The team worked in a room piled high with disaster relief supplies, and our trainees conducted their practicum in the refugee camps. Preschool teachers are mainly young women, many of whom have themselves at that time lost family members.
My name is Katurika. I am 23 years old. I am preschool teacher.
Their schools were damaged or destroyed.
The toilet here, the tsunami came and it was full, and the tank was full and the damage. So we need a toilet too, because we can't use now this toilet.
With a grant from the Singapore Red Cross and donations from IB supporters, IB planned for the long-term support that is needed to help rebuild the infrastructure of education from the earliest years, working in partnership with Sarvodaya, a local Buddhist NGO dedicated to the service of the poor. Preschool teachers in Sri Lanka receive a meagre wage, and some indeed receive goods in kind for their services. They are provided 1 or 2 weeks of training, and then the teacher is in front of a classroom with anywhere from 20 to 60 children. Together with a committee of local experts, the IB team determined what changes were desired for preschools and then developed a course outline for 12 modules of 5 days each, delivered over the course of 2 years.
And it's really good for you as well, professionally, because you become the people who will help spread this approach as we move up in the future.
The committee developed a set of standards for these new professional preschool teachers and for what early childhood centers should look like as they transformed into model preschools.
They want children to perform very well at the highest position, but not to the highest potential. But here they are preparing the child for tomorrow. So they have a target to reach. They have a target to reach. And while doing activities to reach that target, they sometimes find that's not really realistic. So they have the flexibility, they have the freedom to do other things to reach that the target that they are aiming at. I have been a trainer myself. I have tried my best to be very practical in my training programs. But this training program is very different from what I have been doing. I can frankly say that. I have been doing practical sessions. First I tell them and they do the practical sessions. But here, first comes the practical sessions, and then based on that, the theory gets evolved.
Each workshop focused on 1 or 2 standards and gave a goal for practicing in the teacher's own school on her return. IB and the local committee chose simple, measurable standards, for example, supplies, Initially, schools were barren of supplies, except for some outdated alphabet and number posters and a few plastic toys. The objective here was to ensure that teachers collected found objects and recycled materials to make a selection of useful teaching toys in centers accessible to the children. Using standards ensured that assessment no longer consisted of a check mark on the identical children's colorings that decorated the walls, but progressed to teachers and aides taking dictation of student work and noting down the stories. The trainers introduced the concepts of studying child development and scaffolding the child's development to the next developmental level. And parenting education, for this was an opportunity to educate the village on subjects like brain development, the importance of literacy. Access to books was a stumbling block, so the IB team introduced the concept of making teacher and class-created literature and focused on developing a library of books made by teachers and students. Books were brought alive through role plays, puppets, and projects. Volunteer trainers came from IB schools in 16 different nations, often paired with a trainer from a different country. This participation extends benefits both to the trainers who volunteer and to the schools from which they come.
Oh, they're so fantastic. They're really outgoing, enthusiastic, and just sponges. Like, they want to learn so much from each other, from us, and it's like working with teachers back home because they bring that same kind of energy and passion for what they do, and you can tell they're so focused on their children. Their children come first, and that's really neat to see.
At the end of the training program, all 60 teachers graduated. The ministry asked for help with training their supervisors and leaders. The 60 graduate teachers are now working to empower new preschool teachers, and they have established 60 model preschools.
We didn't have a child-friendly environment before the project, but with the instruction IB afforded me, I have been able to transform my school into a child-friendly environment. My students are all poor children. The parents are day laborers without very much education themselves, and they did not care about their children's education before we started the IB instruction. But when we started to do different things, they became very interested in what we were doing because their children were so happy. Even though I did not invite them to do so, they now want to stay in school and watch what we are doing. Before the program, I had 20 students in school, and enrollment has increased to 30, and more would like to come. One of the changes I have seen has been with sister schools for which I am responsible. Before, they used to do only writing, but when I began to teach them activities, they began to change too. The IB program gave me the strength and encouragement to work with the sister schools to make them better. The children in my school have started to talk a lot and ask questions. When we answer their questions, they are not satisfied and they go on asking more and more questions. They are allowed to be in their own world, so they love to come to school every day and they are reluctant to go home in the afternoon. They work more creatively, exchanging ideas amongst themselves. Before the program, the children used to start fighting when they had to share something, for example. One child used to take everything, but those qualities have disappeared. We learned to have a peace cube. The children throw it and decide for themselves how to resolve a problem. When we see them doing something the right and peaceful way, right away we put the child's name on a link in the peace chain and we hang it up on the wall. Now we have the peace cube and the peace chain and the choice wheel. We use them. They wanted to have their name on the peace chain, so they stopped fighting. The peace cube has a picture on it, and they roll it and they talk about it. I have a development file for each child. I select 5 children per day and I write down specific things about them. I know what they have learned because when they come in at circle time, they talk about what they did and their experiences, and we discuss them. I also know what they have learned because they draw and then explain what they have drawn. I have been a teacher for 30 years and have attended many trainings, but during these 2 years it was a different kind of training. As a result of this training, I am now a leader at provincial training programs, and I feel I have the confidence to lead not only in Sri Lanka, but in all the world.
It would be difficult to gauge whether the International Baccalaureate or the Sri Lankan project partners benefit, contribute, or learn more in conducting this project.
I feel 100% that this is the IB program and this is what it should be. We promote international mindedness, and for international mindedness to really have a value, we need to know what else is going on in the world. I really felt that you only get so many opportunities in this world to make a difference, so this was my opportunity to make a difference. Sometimes we want all the new and all the best gadgets, and you can do just as much and just as well with the basics.
The success of the project is dependent largely on the trainees' own initiative, commitment and professionalism, and on how much realism and willingness to listen the IB is prepared to bring to the task. By working together as colleagues and sharing experiences, finding negotiated solutions to early education that fits Sri Lanka's own culture, traditions, and challenging circumstances, both trainers and trainees have seen that a change in children's educational experience in the younger years is less about things and more about applying newfound skills, knowledge, and attitudes to daily practical problems and opportunities. It is about empowering Sri Lankans themselves to build child-centered classrooms from their natural strengths, whether they be in the warmth of the teachers, the importance of music, the centrality of religious experience, or the diversity of cultures. Each time a Sri Lankan teacher applies the skills they have acquired in her own classroom, the number of sustainable, local, real-world examples of practical child-centered education grows, each one a learning experience for the IB, as well as for the teachers and the children.
Boku no niwa ni akaruku na atta.